This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, she is ready.
Big old Michelle is ready, sir.
All right. You can follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports. Better yet, catch her work at the Miami Herald like I do every single day. She is Michelle Kaufman, Inter Miami CF Insider. Michelle, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. How are you? How are you?
Very good, very good. Looking forward to tomorrow, actually. I can't wait till tomorrow night, actually, to get to the stadium, call the game, watch the game. And in a way, how lucky are you and I and a couple of other people that are going to be able to be in that building, man? We're pretty fortunate because there's a lot of fans. You know, one thing that's changed about soccer in this town compared to the other teams in the past, this stadium was supposed to be packed. People were really excited about it. The tickets were bought up. A lot of games were either sold out or close to getting sold out. So there's a lot of people that are going to really, you know, they're gonna be jealous of you and I tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I mean it's you know the fans are allowed to do cardboard cutouts. That's what the team is doing. The fans are for $50. You can get a cardboard cutout of yourself that they're going to put in the north stands, which is nice. It's a nice little gesture, and the money is going to go to their foundation to help some COVID charities and stuff. But yeah, if the fans don't have the opportunity, they're going to just be watching on TV. And we will have a chance to be there live. But it's having covered the game in Orlando that I covered of them, it's it's very different covering a game when there are no fans. It's completely quiet. I mean, you feel like you're watching a practice. You really do. It doesn't really even look or feel like a game, except they have uniforms on, and there are refs. But it really looks like a practice or a scrimmage because there's no sound. There's no music playing. There's nobody in the stands. And then after the game, you don't have any access to the players or coaches. All of the interviews post-game are going to be on Zoom. So, it's better than nothing that we get to be there, but I'm telling you in advance, it is not going to feel like a real game.
I get, well, it'll feel a little different for us because we're in the booth calling the game and all that. So we'll have a little bit more enthusiasm and excitement because I'm sitting there, I'm doing pre and post with Donald pre-half and post, but then I'm there hearing, Whittingham and Rongan with the call. So that's going to give us a little feel for us personally. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be weird that it's no folks in the stadium. The question I have for you is, what are they doing now post-bubble to try to avoid what's gone on in baseball? Because that's what I'm terrified for soccer. That's what I'm terrified for football. When they start, that I just think they're going to get ravaged with COVID issues. So what is the MLS and Inter trying to do to avoid that?
Well, I disagree with you. I don't think they're going to be ravaged. They've been home for over a month now since Orlando, living in their homes, going around, living individually. They're not living in a bubble. They've been the Inter Miami players have been out of the bubble for about 5 weeks now, living with their families, seeing their friends, doing whatever they do. And excuse me, there has not been a single case on the team. They get tested every other day. They get tested every 48 hours. They get tested the day before a game. When they do start traveling, the first 2 games are here tomorrow and then next Wednesday. Then they're going to travel. The travel is only going to be to Atlanta, Orlando, and Nashville for the first few weeks. And, they're going to go on private plane or bus. The Orlando game, I think, is going to be by bus. The other 2 are going to be by private plane. Excuse me. They're going to arrive the day of the game, and I believe they're leaving after the game. So I don't even think they're staying overnight. I think they are literally flying to a venue the day of the game on their own plane, taking their own bus to the field, play the game. After the game, go home. So, I don't think – I think if they've gone 5 weeks in South Florida, which is, one of the areas most hard hit, if they've been 5 weeks in South Florida, a bunch of young men in their 20s and early 30s, and none of them have been infected during all these weeks, I think they're doing a very good job.
No, there's no doubt they're doing a very good job. Have you talked to them, like the players? What are what is their routines and things like that to kind of stay away from it? I mean, look, hey, I've been working throughout the entire pandemic. I haven't stopped, just like you, and I do a lot of remotes actually every week. But again, I follow all the rules. I constantly wash my hands. I got my mask on and all that stuff. So I am following the rules. So I'm wondering, have you talked to them about their everyday routines and what they're doing to kind of stay COVID free?
Yeah, they're all following. I mean, I think they got in the habit, being in the bubble, where there was, hand sanitizer everywhere. They were so confined for so long that they were in the bubble. But I think that behavior carried when they left the bubble. You know what I mean? It's like that became just like us. I mean, I just had an outdoor lunch with a friend of mine. It was her birthday, and I haven't seen her in months. So I took her out to lunch. We just stayed outside. But, we ate in a restaurant that they're taking a million precautions. We ate like a million miles away from the next table. I have my hand sanitizer before the meal, during the meal, after the meal, in my car. I have a hand sanitizer. We live differently now. We just do. I mean, I used to go to Publix and push my little cart around and go home and eat some grapes, right out of the bowl after I washed them. And I'll admit it, I didn't wash my hands every time I came home from Publix. Now, the minute I get in my car at Publix, I have the hand sanitizer in my console, and I'm cleaning my hands. And then when I get home, I wash my hands on top of the hand sanitizer. So, I think people who are not, most people, the vast majority of people, I think, and especially the players on these teams, where they know that if they get it, they're not going to get to play, and they're going to be left behind while their teams go play. And they love what they do. These guys love what they do, and they don't want to jeopardize it. So I think they're being smarter than I thought they were going to be. Honestly, I'm surprised in a way that there hasn't been more. They've had one case total since March, Inter Miami. They had one case of COVID, and he was Macoun, and he was asymptomatic, and he had gotten together with some family members or friends that were not part of the team, and he got it apparently there. That was back in June, early June or something. But that's it. On a team of 30 or 29 guys, that they've only had one. No one on the staff, nobody in the coaching, none of the coaches, none of the staff, and one player. So we're talking about, a group of about 50, 55 people. They've had one case. So I think that's pretty good. I think whatever they're doing is working. And the fact that they left the bubble over a month ago and are still being safe, I think it bodes well for them. I really do.
All right, so you really can't make any progress without real games, but where do they feel they've made progress in the last month? I know once they add Matuidi, that'll obviously be awesome, but he's not going to be available tomorrow. So where do they feel that they've improved leading into this game against Orlando?
Right. Well, one place they've improved, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him play with them, is with LGP, with Leandro Gonzalez-Perez. He's a very experienced, center back. He was an all-star with Atlanta United, a very good player who then moved to Liga MX very briefly and then came back. But he's a guy, from everything I'm hearing, he's a real locker room leader. He's a veteran player from this league, but he's also from Argentina. So he has really been like a mentor for Nico Figal, who's not young but is new to the league, but he's also from Argentina. And Matias Pellegrini, Mati, knows him from way back because they knew each other back with Estudiantes or something back in South America. So he knew him when he was on the youth team, and Leandro was on the senior team, and Mati was on the youth team. So they've known each other a long time, and the whole group of Latin players, and particularly the ones from Argentina, have really gathered around LGP, and he's become sort of the leader of that little group. And he's going to be playing alongside Nico, those two. So it's two guys who really know each other well. They've socialized together. He's a veteran of this league, so he knows. In fact, he was on a conference call yesterday, LGP was, and he said he has never lost to Orlando. He said, I have a personal streak going with Atlanta. He said, I never lost a game to Orlando, and I don't plan to start now. So he is determined to beat Orlando because he's never lost to Orlando. So I think that's going to be a big change, having him in back. Supposedly the way he plays will really help the attack going forward. And then, Robbie Robinson is back, but he's still not in full training because when you come back to the team from being out, you have to go through a quarantine period where he's not allowed to train with the whole group. I think he's just doing individual training right now, and then he'll work his way in. But once he comes back, I think that's someone else that they didn't have in in Orlando. And then, when they have Matuidi, that's going to be a whole other ballgame. I think he's going to completely change the complexion of the midfield there. And they are still, I talked to Paul McDonough. He says they still plan to sign a DP forward player, attacking, scoring player. And I said, well, are you looking to do it now or like in the January window? And he said, we are looking to not wait till January. We are looking to do it as soon as we can. So there is going to be another player. And the players even mentioned in the press conferences this week, they all made mention of, we got Matuidi, and then we're also going to get another player. Like they've all mentioned, and we're going to get another player. So I think sometime soon there will be another player announced. I don't know who. But, I think they're going to be improved by at least those three players from what we saw in Orlando.
All right, well, if he's going to stay undefeated, Nani is the guy to stop, right? So
yes.
What the hell does Miami have to do tomorrow to make sure that dude is either not scoring or setting somebody else up? Because even in the loss in the championship game, he had a great assist. So you tell me, what do they got to do to stop Nani?
Well, you know what, to be honest, they did a pretty good job. The first time they played him, when they played in the opening game of the MLS's back tournament, that game could have been won by Miami. That's the game where Andres Reyes, was fouled and, taken off the field on a stretcher. Everybody thought it was a very, very serious injury. He couldn't breathe. And at that point, Miami was winning. Miami was winning at that point, beating Orlando and looking like they were going to get their first win. Then all of a sudden that happens. And, very soon after, when Miami was still obviously distracted and upset by that whole situation, Orlando scored the tying goal. And then, because that was such a long injury time, in the 97th minute, 7 minutes into injury time, Nani scores the winner. So, it took them 97 minutes to beat Miami in that opening game. So I don't think it's as big of a mismatch as somebody might think. I mean, they did get to the one thing that I do think Miami's going to be a disadvantage. It's not so much Nani, is the fact that Orlando played all the way through to the final of the MLS's back tournament. So they're in a playing groove. You know what I mean? They've played games up until last week or, 10 days ago, whatever. They played all the way until the final game, whereas Miami has not played a game in over a month. And that is going to be a difference because, practicing and playing games are different. And Diego Alonso, the coach, said they tried to get some scrimmages lined up, some practice games, and they were not permitted to do that. So they really have just been practicing and, practicing against themselves mostly, as opposed to Orlando that has been, has played real games and real competitive games against good teams all the way through the MLS's back tournament. So Orlando is going to have that advantage. Miami will have a home field advantage, even though there are no fans cheering for them. It is still their home. It's a place that they have been practicing. They will sleep in their own homes, in their own hometown. So that will give them a little bit of an edge, but Orlando definitely has the edge of being in better game form because they've just played more games.
Yeah, it's obviously you got to give. I mean, they got the experience and they're in a groove, but Miami has got to be incredibly hungry right now. This is a team that is 0-5, and all their losses are by 1 goal. So they know that they easily could have a different record with some different breaks. And look, in the end, we know what their Achilles heel is. They've got to find a way to score more, Michelle. That's really, in the end, what they've got to do.
Yeah, they have to score, and that's why they need that scorer coming, and that's why Matuidi is going to help. He's not going to be the scorer, but he will win balls in the midfield, which is an area that they've been weak. One of their weak links has been losing the ball in the midfield. So, Pizarro has proven to be a very, very good player, but he needs help.
Right.
He needs somebody working with him in the midfield, and I think that is where Matuidi is going to be a great help for him. And, but they don't have him for this game, and they're not going to have him for the next game either. He has to still, get his visa lined up. Then he has to get here and go through the quarantine period. So we're talking about probably a couple of weeks before he can actually play a game. So they're going to have to do it without him for now. But I do think, the addition of LGP, they say that they've been working on stuff in the midfield, but that is the area. One of the reasons they haven't been scoring is that they've been losing a game in the midfield. But they've been losing games 1-0, 1-0, 2-1. It's not that they're being blown out. They're losing by one goal. And so I think they feel pretty optimistic. They feel snake bitten. They feel like a couple of the games they should have won that they didn't. And, I would, if I had to predict, I would, believe it or not, I would predict that they're going to win tomorrow just because they are so hungry to get the first win. And if they don't, that will be really sad because then they'll be 0-6.
Michelle, you and I have been around this sport for a long time. We've covered all the minor league teams that are in town and still in town. We've covered the old MLS team. We were fans of the old NASL teams from back in the day. So we've seen all kinds of soccer in this town. One of the beautiful things about watching how the MLS is growing now is that they finally, instead of becoming a retirement league, they are now investing in youth. And so you're seeing young guys that they're adding to their squad. And then these teams are also investing by having minor league teams where they can now develop players, develop an academy, all those kind of things. Fort Lauderdale CF has been making some noise the last week. Ricky Lopez had the goal of the world last week. Nobody in the world had a better goal than Ricky Lopez. And then Valencia becomes the youngest player in the USL history to score at the age of 15. It's nice to see that what Inter is investing in the future looks like it's starting to pay off now with Fort Lauderdale CF.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a 15-year-old player to be scoring a goal in a professional game. I mean, he made league history. I know the league, I wrote a story about him today, and the team was reluctant. They didn't let me talk to the coach or to him. They said they don't want to put too much pressure on him. They don't want to make too much of it, and so on and so forth. But, he made history. He's 15 years old, the kid, and he scored a goal in a professional soccer game, the youngest player in history. The second youngest, the player whose record he beat is Alphonso Davies, who's now with Bayern Munich. So, when a player can be developed through their club, which Alphonso Davies was developed through Vancouver, you never know what diamonds in the rough you're going to find in your backyard. And that is one of the reasons David Beckham wanted to put the team here, is because he felt that because of our immigrant community in particular in South Florida, there are so many fantastic soccer players down here, young teenagers that nobody has ever seen. Some of them are players who can't afford to play for the fancy academy clubs, which is pay for play. It's very expensive, I know, because my daughter played for 14 years. And, if you are an inner city immigrant or just an immigrant out of West Kendall or whatever, and you can't afford to be with some of these fancy clubs, you may never be seen. And there are so many great players out there on the fields around South Florida that no one has ever seen. So the fact that Inter Miami has an academy, they had scouts that went out and looked for these players and are continued to look to unearth these, hidden treasures on the fields of, all over the place in South Florida and in Pembroke Pines. And, there are Caribbean players, there are South American players, Central American players. These are young kids who grew up watching the game with their parents on TV from the time they were babies, kicking the ball around. And now they get to be 13, 14, and they're starting to show promise. And Inter Miami can scoop up those kids, put them in their academy, train them with top coaches. And the next thing you know, this kid, Valencia, he was just called up in March to the U.S. under-15 national team. He's 15 years old. He was called into the pool camp for that age group. And you never know. He may end up being a player on the U.S. national team. He may not. but he may. So the fact that they are investing in the future, that they are searching for young talent that most people probably have not seen, because there are so many places in South Florida where people are playing soccer in Little Haiti, in West Kendall and Pembroke Pines, and, all over the place, Plantation. There are great players that are just either playing for fun with their friends and doing amazing things, or they're playing in some youth team that doesn't get to play in the biggest, fanciest tournaments at Disney World and stuff because they don't have the money. Down in Homestead, for example, I know that this kid is from Homestead. I know that there are a lot of great players in Homestead. I know that because when my daughter played for Coral Reef High and for Pinecrest Premier, they would all of a sudden play a team from down there, from Homestead, and there would be like one girl on the team is doing bicycle. There was one girl who was doing bicycle kicks, and my daughter was looking over at us like, "Oh my God, this is a girl my age doing bicycle kicks, Right. But no one knew who she was. She was not playing on Pinecrest Premier. She was playing on some small club down there in her neighborhood because that's what they could afford. So that's what Inter Miami's doing. They're looking for those kind of players, and they have a few of them now that they've got playing at 15, 16, 17 years old, playing on the Fort Lauderdale USL team. And who knows, in a couple of years, they may be suiting up for Inter Miami. That
is just some good stuff, man. That was fun to watch. I mean, that was un golazo last week when he got that from midfield. That was a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, it'll be fun, Michelle. I will see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be the woman in the mask, so.
Yeah, I don't even, you know what? I actually may not see you because it depends on the tier you're in. If you're not in that 1, 2, or 3 tier, if you're in one tier, you can only stay with the people that are in 1 tier or 2 tier. I'm in the 3rd tier, so I don't know what tier you're in. But if you're,
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm told I'm in tier 3. So if you're not in tier 3, I won't be able to see you because apparently it's going to be really strict, and they're going to limit all of our. Even though there's only going to be like 30 of us in the entire stadium,
right.
It'll be all very limited for all of us. So they're being very careful, and maybe that's why, like what you just said and how you started with all of this. This is why maybe they don't have a lot of positives going on, because they're being extremely strict about this and actually taking it serious, unlike our president.
Yeah, we have to. We're going to have our temperature taken at the stadium, and we have to we have to pass an online health screening tomorrow morning, day of the game, that we're going to be emailed. You have to fill that out and make sure you pass everything, and then they'll be testing our temperature when we get to the stadium, which is the same thing that happened in Orlando. So yeah, they're being very careful. And with us in the print media, I think there are only 3 of us that are going to be there for the print media, 3 or 4. And we're all going to be very separated in the press box area. We're going to each have a lot of space between us. So, and we have to keep our masks on for the entire game and everything, even though we're in a secluded area. So it's going to be very strict. It's going to be very strict. Yeah.
I have no problem with that. We keep our masks on the entire time while we're in the building. Always. That's just the way that's the way it has to be now.
That's the way it is for now.
We got to get through this thing. All right, Michelle, you are awesome.
Okay.
Thank you as always. You're the best.
All right. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow.
You got it.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, bye.
I'll wave at you. There you go.
Okay.
All right, be good.
All right, bye.
Follow her on Twitter, by the way, at Kauf Sports, and catch her work there at the Miami Herald website. It's pretty cool to watch what Fort Lauderdale CF is doing.